Hello, another episode of Sports with Monga, and it has ended the Japanese Grand Prix with the same flourish that we'd expected and some drama that we wanted. But that's not what we've been handed. We've been handed a 1-2 and the return to the podium, the top step of the podium for Mr. Max Verstappen. And that's the order. Before we get into it, 100% of you watching this video, I've realized are not subscribed. So my humble plea to you guys, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and stay connected to Sports with Mongo. We do a lot of content on Formula One, the Premier League, Bundesliga, the football, Champions Leagues, and major games across the other sports as well, like the Wimbledon, the US Open, or tennis, MMA, and also cricket. So join into the fun, Sports with Monga. Subscribe to the channel, and let's jump into the Formula One Japanese Grand Prix race reaction. It ended Max Verstappen top step of the podium, Sergio Perez as the P2. Of course, everybody thought that Carlos Sainz or Lando Norris would be the one who gets the race. Considering he did finish on the top step of he did finish with P3 in the qualifying, but eventually it was Carlos Sainz with the race result. It was Max Verstappen, Sergio Perez, Carlos Sainz, Charles Leclerc, Lando Norris, Fernando Alonso P6, P7, George Russell, Oscar Piastri P8, Lewis Hamilton P9, and Yuki Tsunoda P10. That's the top 10. Let's start with Yuki Tsunoda here. There's a lot of drama with the start, but the Yuki Tsunoda, the first Japanese to score points in the Japanese Grand Prix. It's kind of a history made and a lot of a good positive vibe for the RB Visa team. They get the points. Yuki Tsunoda gets the final point. Misery for Daniel Ricciardo in the first lap after he had a touch. He had a moment, he had an incident with Alex Albon, and that's the second breaking point as well. The big breaking news here is like Alex Albon and Williams just can't stop crashing at this moment. They had like it's like it's a lot of problems with Williams right now. We'll get into Daniel in a moment, but then with Williams, they just can't stop crashing. It's almost feel like they've had this the crucial point where they know that they don't have a chassis available. It's like the drivers have decided to crash every time they get on the circuit. Alex Albon in Australia crashed it. They didn't have a spare chassis. They didn't have a tub, so they gave a Logan Sargent's car to Alex Albon. That happened, and then you're hoping, okay, let's Japan be a little much more quieter weekend. First pre-practice, and Logan Sargent crashes the car, and it's done. And then the mechanics get the car back built up, and then it's Alex Albon in the race, touching Daniel Ricciardo, ruining both the races. But Williams, I'm just thinking, in the development race, when it's going to be really hard in the cost cap era, what are they prioritizing right now? Are they prioritizing getting the spare car ready, or are they prioritizing getting development done? It's a very hard battle for them right now, in my opinion. And Williams, with James Vowell, he knows it's going to be hard. He's basically said he's already told us that it's not going to come. No, they need to prioritize spares, because if they want to run a Chinese Grand Prix and they want to have two cars on the racetrack, they need to get two cars. They need to get something done before they do, because it's next to impossible for them to kind of run the way they're running right now. On the other side, Alex Albon was out in the first lap. Daniel Ricciardo, talking about the RB Visa guy, who was pipped in the Q3 by Yuki Tsunoda in the qualifying as well of the Japanese Grand Prix. He's definitely lost a lot of mojo. There was a lot of pressure with him going in. Helmut Marko backtracked his comments about, like, we're going to watch him, and Miami might be the last race for Daniel Ricciardo. But Helmut Marko coming back and backing up Daniel Ricciardo and saying, no, it's not an ultimatum. We just want him to perform better and good for RB Visa team. And that's where we kind of feel Daniel is like, we did hope that he would kind of do a good race, but then that just is not happening. It's just not happening. And that's the problem with Daniel Ricciardo. He's a very he gets a lot of positive momentum when he is in the field, when he understands the car that he's driving, the car is to his tune. But since McLaren, he has been struggling to find the car that kind of is on his tune. We know that RB has been like almost the same car as last year. Yuki has a better grip of the car, and Daniel just kind of figuring out things around it. But there needs to be a point of no return, or basically a point where the pressure on him is too much, and Red Bull need to kind of wipe the floor. Basically said, okay, we're done with you, Daniel. So we've given you the chance. You just couldn't perform. Thank you very much for your services. You've had a great career. Enjoy yourself, and we love you, Honey Badger. I love him. He's one of my favorite drivers. I love the character. But he's not smiling enough. I see him pensive. I see him in the media pen being really, really thoughtful of what he's saying. He's not having fun. I don't see him laughing. That's what I love about Daniel Ricciardo, to be very honest. That's the Daniel Ricciardo I love. I don't see him anymore. And that's what I'm thinking. Is the mojo gone from Daniel Ricciardo? Is it too much for him to handle now? Maybe it is, but drop in the comment section below, guys. Australian fans, I know maybe you're pissed at me saying, why are you calling me out? But I'm thinking it is time. You know, plus Sebastian Vettel, we miss him. He didn't come back. Like, it'll be nice if he comes back and wins races. That'll be interesting. But if you make a comeback and you don't win races, and you're not even in the midfield, you're not even fighting for points, that's what I don't understand. What's the point? Like, is it like a hobby? It's like because you don't do anything else, that's why you're driving. It's like Lance Stroll. Like, you will love skiing enough, right? But then you can't ski the whole winter. Like, you can ski the winter, but you can't ski in the summer. And you could, but then, you know, your father owns the team, then you have to drive. It's not like that for Daniel Ricciardo. He has a choice to make. I really wish him the best. I hope he turns it around. That's what my hope is still. But Daniel Ricciardo is basically getting thumped right now by Yuki Tsunoda. The Japanese driver is on top of the car. He is performing outstandingly well. Possibly not putting himself in the good spirits for the next for the big Red Bull car. But there is one man who's just doing everything, and you can't ignore him, and that's Carlos Sainz Jr. Carlos Sainz doing again what everybody thought that he would, in a way, qualifying P4 in the Ferrari behind Lando Norris, but then he was on it. Carlos Sainz pipping Charles Leclerc for the podium point. They were running different strategies, of course. Long run for Leclerc on the medium and then getting on the hard. But two-stop race for Carlos Sainz, strategically well played by Ferrari, waiting for everybody in the front at the point to pit, and he was there kind of lapping it up at the end of it, taking on Lando Norris. He overtook Fernando Alonso, Lando Norris, and Charles Leclerc to get that point on the podium. Good one. Just lap him up, Red Bull. Come on, go give him a call. Get him a race drive for next year. We need to see Carlos Sainz in a championship winning car. Look at, like, imagine if you go. I think the best one would be to go to Mercedes and do the inevitable and win the the drivers' championship with Mercedes, with Hamilton going to Ferrari and the Red Bull still having the Max Verstappen and Checo Perez duo playing for them. It'll be a really interesting moment if that happens, because you have to understand Ferrari is where Mr. Carlos Sainz is, but he is an ex-Red Bull junior driver. So going to Mercedes and beating them would be wow, simply wow. At this moment, you've watched this video. I hope you're loving the content. Hit the subscribe button and let's move on. On the other side, of course, the race was riddled by the first lap shenanigans between Albon and Daniel Ricciardo. We've talked about Daniel Ricciardo, but then the race in the race, Daniel Ricciardo Albon was on his blind side on the right. He didn't see him come in. He moved a little bit right. They touched slightly, but that was good enough for them to kind of crash, both of them to crash. A heavy crash, a big shunt that delayed the race by 30 minutes. In the second restart of the race, Nico Hülkenberg had a howler. He went from P10 to last. Other moments to talk about, Logan Sargent, again, I think was struggling. He just can't stop. Logan Sargent was like, you know, there was nobody. They just wanted the car to kind of be home safe without another crash. But he, almost at the dying laps, went straight off, couldn't brake. Luckily, he didn't crash. but that ended a miserable weekend for him. Logan Sargent, basically P17 after Zhou Guanyu also had to retire his car in lap 12 because of gearbox issues. Sauber has, as I've said, not kicked off at all. It almost like they're kicking themselves right now. It should be called Kick Us Sauber. Pierre Gasly and Esteban Ocon had a moment as well in the first laps. I think that compromised some of the race pace for them, but then they've not had a great car since the start of the season. But then both of them again coming along, not causing extensive damage to each other. But then P15 and P16 is where Alpine cars were seen. Valtteri Bottas did fight, but then his tires just gave up eventually. And we have Kevin Magnussen, Lance Stroll, and Nico Hülkenberg as 11, 12, and 13 respectively. Hülkenberg just outside the points. He was making the last gasp, but then Yuki Tsunoda was too good for him to kind of take the point. Lance Stroll, I don't understand why he's even driving in Formula One anymore. You can just call me like I'm the hate club of Lance Stroll, but I just don't understand P12 when the car of Fernando Alonso is doing a P6 with both cars having the upgrades. Doesn't make any sense to me at all. Lance Stroll ended with P12. Kevin Magnussen, the Haas drivers, doing a pretty good job. You have to understand, Haas was kind of wiped out. They were said nobody expected them to kind of be this high on the grid. But they've been surprising everybody. At least they've surprised me with Williams, with Alpine, with RB, with Ariza, and the Kick Sauber team as well. They've been the best of the rest for now, and that's very interesting to see. In the points as well, Lewis Hamilton, Mercedes boys were like somewhere to be seen, but they never kind of became a challenge. Fernando Alonso was fighting and did a great job holding off George Russell. Of course, Oscar Piastri made a mistake before the end of the season, like last lap, before the end of the last lap. He made a mistake, and that was good enough for George to pip him. But Oscar will take some positives out of this race. Japanese Grand Prix, a good race for both McLaren drivers as well, because one of them finished P4, the other one finished P8. That basically would mean in the Drivers' Championship currently, we have Max Verstappen, 77 points, number one on the 2024 Drivers' Championship. Sergio Perez, P2, 64 points, making a roaring comeback after a dismal Australian Grand Prix. This is where we want him to stay. Leclerc, 59 points, P3, Sainz, P4 with 55 points in the Drivers' Championship. Fifth is Lando Norris with 37, and Piastri close by with a 32. Russell is 7th, with Hamilton 8th, and with Alonso 8th, and Hamilton at 9th, and Stroll 10th. Russell and Alonso are on 24 points each. Hamilton and Stroll are on 9 and 10 with 10 points each as well. Tsunoda with 7 points. Oliver Behrman, yes, he's still pipping a lot of drivers who are still driving. Can you imagine that? This guy drove in Saudi, and he's still ahead of Hülkenberg, Magnussen, Albon, Zhou Guanyu, Ricciardo, Ocon, Gasly, Bottas, and Logan Sargent. On the teams lineup, this is basically mean Red Bull are 141 points, with Ferrari close by with 120 points. McLaren 69, Mercedes 34, Aston Martin 33, and RB 7. Haas 4 points, Williams, Kick Sauber, and Alpine are still to score a point. Haas is 7th, RB is 6th, the best of the rest. On the top 5 battle of it's still Red Bull, Ferrari, McLaren, Mercedes, and then Aston Martin. The Mercedes Aston Martin fight is just amazing. Let me know in the comment section below, what do you think? Who do you think will actually pip this up? It's interesting that Mercedes gives the engine to Aston Martin, but they've done a good job somehow. I think money is paying a lot of dividends for Mr. Lawrence Stroll. Just if he only had a new better driver in the second seat and not his son, then things would have been different. Let me know in the comment section below, what do you think about this race? Do hit the subscribe button. I hope you've enjoyed this. There's a lot more content coming through for Formula One and other sports as well. Do stay tuned. Do like this video, and I'll catch you in the next one.